Hey guys, okay. So I wanted to talk about what I've read so far in The Way of Kings, Brandon Sanderson. And I'm doing something a little bit different with this video, because I noticed that it always came out kind of a little blurry. It's like I see all these other people that are making videos that look way more crisp than mine. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I had it set to render output as 1280 by 720, so I changed that. So I got this book at the library. It's got this map I have yet to study. None of these places. Alethala? I think that's where this book takes place, in like Alethala? Yeah. The Kingdom of Roshar. And then there's this thing that looks kind of like the Kabbalah on the top. I don't know what that is. And then if you go to the back, there's another map of some kind of netherworld, Shadesmar. Still have no idea what that is. And then another Kabbalah, which I don't know what that means. There's all these symbols. First thing I noticed, there's another map on the inside. I guess it's more detailed. So you got the Cosmere, right? And there's supposed to be all one universe. And I noticed chapter 2 started out with this symbol, which looks like one of the symbols from Mistborn. It looks like one of those elemental metal symbols, right? So people say this book is really hard to explain, like what it's about. I mean, it kind of is. There's a lot of like the contents section and stuff. There's a forward acknowledgments and stuff, and there's like title pages. So it actually starts out on page 15. So I've read it like, I'm on page 255, so I'm really on like page 240 or something like that. Let me just read you from the inside jacket here, because this kind of explains a lot. Roshar is a world of stone and storms. Uncanny tempests of incredible power sweep across the rocky terrain so frequently that they have shaped ecology and civilization alike. Animals hide in shells, trees pull in branches, and grass retracts into the soilless ground. Cities are built only where the topography offers shelter. It has been centuries since the fall of the 10 consecrated orders known as the Knights Radiant. But their shard blades and shard plate remain, mythical swords and suits of armor that transform ordinary men into near invincible warriors. Men trade kingdoms for shard blades. Wars are fought for them and won by them. One such war rages on a ruined landscape called the Shattered Plains. There, Kaladin, who traded his medical apprenticeship for a spear to protect his little brother, has been reduced to slavery. In a war that makes no sense, where 10 armies fight separately against a single foe, he struggles to save his men and fathom the leaders who consider them expendable. Bright Lord Dalinar Kholin commands one of those other armies. Like his brother, the late king, he is fascinated by an ancient text called The Way of Kings. Troubled by overpowering visions of ancient times and the Knights Radiant, he has begun to doubt his own sanity. So that's the first part. Kaladin, it's like one story. Dalinar Kholin is like another story, a different POV. Across the ocean, an untried young woman named Shallan seeks to train under the eminent scholar and notorious heretic Jasna Kholin, Dalinar's niece. Oh, I didn't even realize that. Though she genuinely loves learning, Shallan's motives are less than pure. She plans a daring theft. Her research for Jasna hints at secrets of the Knights Radiant and the true cause of the war. So this was 10 years of planning, writing, and world building. Stormlight Archive. So, 3 stories, kind of. This guy who's like the son of a king, he gets murdered. So this, how do we start talking about the Stormlight Archive? It's so weird. Here, let me talk about what I don't like about Brandon Sanderson, because that's going to be the easiest way to start this. Most people copy J.R.R. Tolkien. When you write fantasy, you got elves and dwarves and goblins and gnomes and things. He invented all that, apparently. Brandon Sanderson just like, fuck that shit. I want to write something completely different, and I want everybody to be Spider-Man. So, like, nothing on the world is what we know. I mean, they talk about building bridges out of trees, but I don't know if they even have trees. Maybe they get wood from ants. I don't know where they get... Like, everything is differently named. There's these, like, big crab kind of creatures chasm fiends. And then there's smaller ones. I think some people ride them and they hit their antenna with sticks and they guide them around. Those are like the Asian-y kind of people, I think, just based on like their names. Or like the water people. They live in like a watery area. But it starts out kind of like Assassin's Creed, right? No, wait. Before that, it even starts out before. This is why this is so hard to read. It's interesting. I liked it. It grabbed my attention from the start. Where Mistborn, the first 30 pages, I was falling asleep because I didn't know any of the characters. That's why I don't like Brandon Sanderson's writing. He throws out a bunch of new people and new things and doesn't explain who they are or what they are until like way later in the book. So then when you get done with the book, you're like, well, I should reread this now because now that I know what everything is, it'll all make more sense. I wish he would explain what stuff is before he talks about it. But like I'm just now getting to the part where he's been talking about Krim and Kremlings and all this stuff about Krim. I'm like 250 pages in and he's talking about, yeah, when it rains, there's like this dirt that's in the water, so rainwater's kind of dirty, so you gotta let it sit for a day, and then you pour the clean water off the top, and all the stuff in the bottom is Krim. And then you use that to make pottery. I'm like, oh, that makes sense now that I'm thinking about it. You keep calling about Kremlings. What the fuck is a Kremling? And he's like throwing out a bunch of like names of high lords and bright dudes, and you got these people that are like bright eyes and dark eyes, and I still have no idea what a bright eye and a dark eye is, or a light eye. It's called a light eye. So apparently you get to become a light eye if you're a dark eye and you win a shard blade on the field of battle. So if you have like brown eyes and you get a sword, then your eyes turn blue or something, or like turn white. I don't know. I'm thinking since it's all the same Cosmere universe as Mistborn has 10 eyes, and 10 eyes can kind of see better if they have 10. But I don't think it has anything to do with that. And then like he starts talking about like dawn singers, and I'm like, what the fuck is a dawn singer? You haven't said anything about a dawn singer before. Like, I guess we'll find out maybe in book 3. Oh no, dude. And it's like, it's cool though, because it starts out, there's these dudes, they're fighting in these never-ending battles. They die and they respawn like a video game or something. They've died hundreds of thousands of times. There's like 10 of them, and they all have these crazy magical swords that give them certain powers. Maybe they're just like all the same. I don't know. But they all have different names. And they're saying like, I'm tired of this bullshit. Let's quit. And this other guy's like, yeah, let's do that. And I think something has to happen where one of them has to stay and suffer this torment of this cycle of constant dying and fighting a war. So like, I don't know if Sanderson fucked up here or not, but he says like, there's 10 of them. One of them has to stay. Says they all stuck their swords into the ground and walked away. All 10 of them, all 10 swords. I'm like, wait, what? One of them have to stay? So I don't know. This was like 2,000 years ago or something, right? This was back in the times of the Knights Radiant, and they were killing gods with their shard blades, wearing their shard plate. And if you have a shard plate and a shard blade, then you're a shard bearer. And the shard plate gives you super strength and lets you run fast, absorbs impacts. A shard blade can stab a shard plate once or twice, and then it shatters it, and then it can stab you and kill you. But it's also the shard plate can be completely shattered, and it will like regenerate itself and heal itself. And it can heal your wounds faster too if you get cut or like you get hurt. And the swords can like turn into mist. You have to like take 10 heartbeats to summon one of them. And if you have it, you can kind of, if you cut someone, it's like a spirit sword. It doesn't actually cut you, but it cuts your soul off at that point. So your arms and legs will stop working forever. If you get cut in your arms or leg, if it cut you in your spine, and you're just dead because your soul has been separated from your body. So if you want to steal one off of somebody, I guess winning a shard blade in battle will be killing that guy, because if he's dead, then you can't like, when it turns to mist, it's like if you drop it and it turns to mist so nobody can steal it accidentally. But if you kill him, then it will just reform and it will be there and you can grab it, and then You become a light eye, I guess, and you have a shard blade. Because people fight these wars over these shard blades. They're so powerful. So, once something is dead, like they kill this big chasm fiend with them, then you can cut it up and you can like cut the meat off or whatever and slice it or whatever. But you can also just cut through stone with it. You can cut anything that's dead. It'll cut through anything. It's like a fucking lightsaber. It's pretty dope. So after these 10 guys, or 9 guys walk away, leave their shard blades. So now the shard blades get captured by kings or something. I don't know. They've mentioned like 3 people that have them that are on these like knights that are fighting against these people that used to be slaves, but now they're stronger. The Pashtuni, I don't know. These guys, some of them are slaves still. Some of them are like stronger and they're fighting with bows and arrows over this land called the Shattered Lands, Shattered Plains. What was it called? There's a map somebody drew on the back of a turtle shell or something. I forgot where it was. So it's basically a bunch of crevices that you gotta like take bridges. No, it's a different map. There's a lot of illustrations in here. So there's like this place that has all the wood that they make the bridges, and these people that carry. What the fuck was it called? Shattered Chasms? No. I don't know. Just imagine a bunch of gorges that you have to like put bridges down to cross. There's also these things called spren. They're like spirits. There's like spirits of emotions. I don't even know how you explain these fucking things. Like if you get hurt, pain spren will appear. Like little orange hands or something that like show pain or something. If you have something that's rotting, there's rot spren. If you have a victory in battle, there's like victory spren. There's life spren. You can see like little green motes on plants and stuff. There's a spren for pretty much everything. Wind spren. If it's windy out, they can turn into leaves, but they're clear. And some people can see them, and some people can't. It's really weird. It's constantly weird ghosty ghosts everywhere for some reason. Like I don't know why. Like all the plants are weird because it's all like there's these storms that constantly come and just bash the planet in, so the plants are all like they'll look dead until they get water and they turn green, or they'll retract, or they'll do weird shit. Nothing is as it seems. Nothing is like normal stuff. It's just like it's a foreign alien planet. That's why I'm not really invested in the outcomes of it, because I can't relate to any of the stuff he's talking about. But it is, on the other hand, kind of cool. So, after this first 2,000 years ago, or whatever it was, these 10 guys leave, right? Then it jumps ahead to like 50 years ago, maybe, or something. So a few years ago, there's this guy. He's from these people called the Shin, which kind of sounds Chinese, so I assume he's kind of like... No, actually, he sounds more like Arabic, the way they describe him, I think. Because I imagine, like, Assassin's Creed 1, they call him the Assassin in White because he gets paid by these guys that start with the letter P that they're fighting in, and later in wars. They paid this guy to, like, kill the king, assassinate him, and make it very public. Let everyone see you and have them know that you did it. So he's got this thing called an oath stone, which means he's like your slave. He has to do anything you tell him to do except for killing himself or giving up his sword, because he's got one of those shard blades. That's the 2 things he doesn't have to do. So they pay him. He goes through. He kills the king, and he starts doing this kind of magic stuff that he uses Stormlight to do. I have to explain what Stormlight is. I mean, he's doing these things, he calls them lashings. It's really similar to Mistborn, where you use the steel pushing and pulling, where you're like Spider-Man in reverse, where you're pushing on stuff and you're just flipping all over the place. Only he does it where he can pick a wall or a ceiling or whatever, he can change gravity so that he flies towards that thing. Or he can lash like a door shut But if you have sharp plate, you're probably strong enough to bash it through. But it's kind of like a magic thing. He sucks in this Stormlight from the lamps all around, because here's the thing about Stormlight is nobody really has this ability he has. It's like really rare, so he's like super powerful. But nobody knows it. He doesn't want anybody to know it. He keeps it a secret, I think. And like, so they use Stormlight as just light. It's really expensive. Their currency, instead of having gold and silver coins like every other fucking fantasy novel, Brandon Sanderson says, I gotta have my own currency. So he's got all these gems that are in spheres. So you have like dead ones called dun spheres, and full ones that have infused Stormlight in them. And they're different, like different ranks of currency. Like chips are the smallest, and bromes are the highest. See, you have to learn all these fucking words. This is why I'm halfway falling asleep reading this, because it's so hard to read, because you got to learn all this new vocabulary to understand what the hell's happening. You can't just use shit that everybody else uses. It's got to be special. Fucking Brandon Sanderson. He pisses me off. So you got emerald. I think emerald bromes are the highest. Diamond chips would be the lowest, because diamond's the weakest. There's like 10 different kinds of gems. They all like relate to different body parts and different. There's a whole. The Ars Arcanum is a whole different book just explaining what all this shit does. Sapphire, smokestone, ruby, diamond, emerald, garnet, zircon, amethyst, topaz, heliodor. Essences: zephyr, vapor, spark, lucentia, pulp, blood, tallow, foil, talus, sinew. What's the difference between tallow and talus? So, protection, learning, brave, loving, just, creative, wise, resolute, dependable, pious. And then there's these things called fabrials. What is a fabrial? That's a great question, because I don't even fucking know yet. There's this thing called... Oh man, there's so much to this shit. What was it called? Soul casting? I think is what it was called. There's these things you wear on the back of your hand. Here's another thing. Interesting, just for no reason at all. All the men, except for that white assassin I just mentioned, they're illiterate. All the women read the books, and then they read them to the men. And also, for some reason, when women become of age and they start to be like where you can like date them, they have to wear gloves on their left hand, and then later on they get like their sleeve is longer and they button their sleeve at the end, so you can't see their safe hand is what they call that. They got your free hand and your safe hand. They keep their expensive money in their safe hand pouch, because apparently the left hand of women is very sexy and it turns people on. I don't know. So then you got these soul casters. You can put 3 gems on it, kind of like the Infinity Gauntlet, and you can use them to like transform things into different things. So like one guy, he was using one of those to like make like a regular rock into marble, and he would get a bunch of money, and that's how he would fund his business or whatever. And if you got the emerald ones are used for making food. So you can use soulcasters just like make food to feed your armies instead of having to go grow food. Weird, right? Yeah, there's a lot of weirdness to this. I'm surprised I know as much as I do. One thing I know is like if you teach somebody something, it helps you remember it better. So I'm trying to teach you guys. So now this is all kind of solidifying in my brain, so it'll make more sense when I read it now. So there's this, what was I at? The assassin kills the king. The king tells the assassin, like, my dying wish is to leave a note for my brother. It says, brother, find the words that are the most important words to say to a man, or something like that. It's from the book, The Way of Kings. Not this book, Way of Kings, but the ancient text, Way of Kings, in the story. And Dolinar, or whatever, he's trying to figure out what that means, and he's like, how does this guy even know how to write? He's a man. I guess the assassin, he's got all these special abilities. He did that for him. He wrote it down in his own blood. before he left. So, so then, skip ahead a few years, and you got this guy who's like leading the armies with a spear, not a shard blade or anything, just a really good fighter, and all he's like keeping his troops alive. He's one of the best ones at that. Gains all this respect, and then I think he gets hurt or something, and he becomes a slave. I can't remember how that. So he gets turned into a slave. It was started out really cool. He was doing all this cool stuff, and then all of his troops died. He got him killed, and he gets captured, and he gets made into a slave. And what they do is they put him... Wait, I think these were all the same... Yeah, he was fighting for this guy. I thought they were all on the same team. Like, I don't know who the bad guys are, except for these people that start with letter P. Even though they're not bad guys, they're just slaves. The Parshendi. The Parshendi are like the buff version of these slaves that decided to revolt and fight back. So I don't know if the knights or whatever are the good guys, or they're just like, I don't know. I thought they were both all fighting for the same shit. Oh, there's like different skirmishes between the factions of the good guys, I think, that are all like trying to get these gem hearts that they get out of these crabs because they're really valuable. Everybody's just fighting for like valor and money and fame and fortune and all kinds of shit like that. So he becomes a slave. He has to, is a really grueling process of like, they have these bridges that they build, and these people, instead of like wheeling it out on wheels, it'll take too long because they're trying to cross these chasms while these other people are shooting arrows at him, so he gets to get worthless slaves, and he just have them carry the bridge and then chuck it across while they're all getting pelted with arrows, and half of them die every time. It's really stupid, and this guy is like pointing out how stupid it is, and like he keeps surviving it somehow. It's kind of reminds me of Catch-22 a little bit. And he ends up, they got this chasm, some kind of chasm that you go kill yourself in if you just get tired of it, or you can eventually do 100 of them and you can get free, or you can like pay your slave debt and get out of slavery that way, but nobody ever does that. It's really weird. It's just sad. This guy, he's trying to like get all of his slaves together like his old squad and kind of be the leader. And this Windspren, which usually they're just like spirit ghosts that don't talk to you, she just kind of starts becoming, what is it, like an AI, becomes cognizant. She starts knowing things, and she don't know how she knows it, and she has memories of things. And I don't know if that's like a ghost of somebody from his past, because it cuts to his past when he was like going to become a doctor or a surgeon for his dad, and the people he's hanging out with and stuff. Maybe one of them dies and becomes this Windspren or something. I don't know how it works. So then you got this whole other story with Shallan. She's like trying to become a scholar and study under this woman, but she really doesn't want to study under. She just wants to get in her good graces so she can figure out where she keeps her little hand thing with you put the 3 stones, or soul caster, I think that's what it's called, right? She's trying to steal her soul caster because her dad had one and it broke, and the only reason that she can like save her families from going broke is to like get her soul caster back and start making more of that marble or whatever. So she's trying to like switch hers out with that other woman's, steal it from her. So like a heist. So there's this big battle with a big giant crab. The king's like kind of reckless. The son of the old king is like trying to save him, and then like the other guy, Sadeas, I think is the name, he's like an asshole, but he's like a good guy. I mean, it's pretty cool. The battles and stuff's pretty cool. It just kind of jumps around a lot, and he keeps talking about names of stuff, and I don't know what it is. It's like, you can almost just pick a spot and just start reading. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Vengeance Pact, the Veden. I don't know what a Veden is. Bridge 4, Parshendi, the Shattered Plains. That's what it was, the Shattered Plains. That's where all these fights take place. It looks like that right there. You see how there's like a big chasm and there's like a guy over there and a guy over here? and he can't reach because they haven't got a bridge. They have to put a bridge across this big chasm. Jacques Haved, Horn Eater Peaks, Babylon. Don't know where any of this is. Don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. I feel like the more you read, the better it gets. Because it takes a while to like understand what the stuff is. There's this thing called the Void Bringers that were like... What was the other thing too? There was like a bunch of stuff in the history, like a long time ago. The Knights Radiant, and they were fighting the gods and the Void Bringers, and I guess that's when the Dawn Singers lived, and there was something else. The Heralds. I keep talking about these things called the Heralds. I don't know what they are. Why don't you tell me what a herald is so I know what you mean when you say all this stuff about heralds? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Why don't you tell me? Glyph pairs. Reading glyphs. I don't know what that means. But every now and then you'll get a cool illustration. There's a lot of illustrations, actually. Like, they started talking about the Alethi Codes of War, and then the next chapter is like this whole... Here's the Alethi Codes of War. The officer will require no action of his soldiers that he will not be willing to perform himself. The officer will not abandon allies on the field, nor will he seek to profit from the loss of his allies. So that's kind of cool. This guy tries to enforce that, and he's like, oh, well, we don't do that shit right here. Carbranth. Where's Carbranth? Sadeas. Yeah. So, down in our colon, the Blackthorn. They just started calling the Blackthorn for some reason. Out of nowhere. What was the other thing I was about to talk about? Yeah, just so much stuff in this. The Tranquiline Halls. Yeah, here we go. Let me read you this to see if this makes any sense to you if you've never heard any of this before. They could have taken turns, but that was not the Alethi way. Competition was doctrine to them. Vorinism taught that the finest warriors would have the holy privilege of joining the heralds after death, fighting to reclaim the Tranquiline Halls from the Voidbringers. I don't know what any of that fucking stuff means, but I've already read past that part. To give up a gem heart to another, well, it felt wrong. Better to have a contest. And so what had been a war had become sport instead. Deadly sport, but that was the best kind. I mean, Sanderson's cocky, man. He's a cocky motherfucker. I don't know. It's kind of pretentious to write all this stuff as if you know what the fuck it is. He just goes right into it as if you live in this world and you know what all this stuff means, having no idea about any of it until many pages later. So here's a thing explaining how these crab people ride them, and they have these sticks, and you attach them to carts. They have little feelers. I mean, I can't say it's bad, though. I found a couple of, like, grammatical things where you left a word out or you used the wrong word. But, this woman, Jasna, she goes to, like, be a tutor or whatever, study under her. And she tests her on all these things, and she asks her about, like, history, which doesn't know anything about history. So, like, have you read anything by Placini, Gabrathian, Ustara, Manolang, or Shaka, daughter Hasweth? Right. Okay. Flamesprin danced on burning logs, and the floor was wood. Yeah, I don't know what a flamesprin. I don't know what these sprin are. What is a sprin? What does a sprin do? Why don't you tell me this? It kind of sounds like this world. They keep talking about this place called Origin, which is past the Shattered Plains, or whatever it was called. I can't remember. And then later on, I just got to the part where it says origin means the origin of storms. So like you have these constant storms, and this is where the storms originate. So it would kind of be like the Maelstrom in World of Warcraft or something. It's like out in the middle of the ocean or land somewhere you can't get to. And there's this thing they call the god there. It's like they call him Stormfather because they curse using the god's name, Stormfather, a lot. The Almighty. Which kind of makes me think it's like Thor, since he's like the Lord of Storms. I mean, that's like 30 minutes of video right there, just on the first 20% of this book. It's almost like a whole... This is more than most reviews. The Almighty had created Roshar. He had another name, allowed to pass only the lips of ardents. I don't know what an ardent is. I guess it's like a scholar of some kind. Elithanathile, he who transforms. Elithanathile. I thought it was going to be like Elantris, because that was like the first book of the Cosmere or something. Creation Spren began to gather around her pad, looking at her work. Now she starts drawing, and it draws in these creation Spren. There's a Spren for fucking everything, I tell you. If you're jacking off, masturbation Spren will appear around your cock and balls. I don't know what they look like, but the Parshmani. This book has so many weird things you have to learn. It's extra. It's a very extra kind of a book. Here's a guy's name. Tvlakv. Tvlakv. I didn't say Tvlakv isn't a bastard. He's just a likable bastard. Those are the worst kind. When you kill them, you end up feeling guilty for it. See, it's actually good writing. But the names and the pretentiousness of like all this, throwing all this information at you. You got that shash glyph on your head. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the glyph is. I'm assuming it's you carved a picture in a guy's head. Happy Middle Fist, you bastards. What is a Middle Fist? They never said. They will never say, probably. Alright, so if you ever were wondering, what is the Stormlight Archive? What is it about? That's kind of what it's about. It was the first part, anyway. It's supposed to be like a 10-book thing, and he's only 4 books in, I think. So, Jesus. Mormons, man. They get super creative. They get so creative they can invent whole religions out of whole cloth. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Full religions out of whole cloth.